August 12, 1985. 6:12 p.m. For most of the Western world, 1985 was the year of distractions. It was the year Coca-Cola launched New Coke, but only to face a nationwide consumer revolt. It was the year Live Aid brought the biggest stars on the planet together for one historic concert. But while the world was focused on pop stars and soda wars, halfway across the globe, in Japan, a far greater tragedy was quietly unfolding. The aircraft assigned to Japan Airlines Flight 123 was JA8119. 524 lives on board. A routine flight on an indestructible machine. On board Japan Airlines Flight 123, a mother writes on a piece of paper, "My babies, be good to each other. I will always love you so much." A man scribbles his final words. "Tell Haru, I'm sorry I missed her recital. Tell her I love her. That's all that matters." These aren't ordinary letters. They're farewell notes. Written not in a hospital room, not in a war zone, written in a falling airplane. Flight 123. Tokyo to Osaka. 524 people on board. A routine 45-minute flight. 12 minutes after takeoff, climbing through 24,000 feet, something impossible happens. Bang! What was that sound? Something's wrong with the fuselage. The cockpit erupts in warnings. Master caution. Hydraulic pressure alerts. All 4 systems. Red lights across the panel. Captain Masami Takahama reaches for the control yoke. It doesn't move. Not stuck. Not jammed. Frozen solid. Hydraulic pressure, all systems, 0. And then the crew looks through the rear cabin window. The vertical tail fin is gone. Completely torn off. Here's what you need to understand. The Boeing 747 was engineered to be unfailable. 4 independent hydraulic systems. Lose 1, the others take over. Lose 2, still flyable. Lose 3, you can still land. The probability of losing all 4? Mathematically impossible. But the impossible has just happened. And the pilots know what this means. Emergency. Requesting immediate return to Haneda Airport. What the passengers don't know yet is that they have 32 minutes left. 32 minutes to say goodbye. 32 minutes to write those final letters. This is the story of how it happened. And why it was inevitable. Let's rewind. 7 years before this tragedy. June 2, 1978. The same aircraft. Registration JA8119. Landing at Osaka. The approach is too steep. The tail strikes the runway hard. It's not catastrophic, but it damages something critical: the aft pressure bulkhead. The back wall that keeps 524 people breathing at 37,000 feet. Think of this bulkhead as a dome holding back massive pressure. 8.5 psi. That's 6 tons per square meter constantly pushing against it. Boeing sends a repair team. They assess the damage. Bottom section, cracked. Needs replacement. The procedure is clear. Take a single long splice plate. Lay it across the joint. Drill 2 parallel rows of rivets. 2 rows. Redundancy. If one row fails, the second catches the load. But the repair crew made a choice. Maybe to save time, maybe convenience, maybe just a mistake. They used 2 short plates instead of 1 long one. Overlapped them at the seam. The point of maximum stress. Now here's the problem. Only 1 row of rivets bore the entire structural load. 70% of the stress. Concentrated on a single line of holes punched through aluminum. In engineering, this is called a stress concentrator. A fuse. A countdown timer. And nobody caught it. Not Boeing's quality control. Not the FAA. Not Japan's aviation authority. The paperwork was signed. The plane returned to service. And somewhere in the metal, invisible to the eye, the first microscopic crack appeared. The clock started ticking. For 7 years, nobody knew. Flight after flight. Tokyo to Osaka. Osaka to Sapporo. International routes. Domestic hops. Every takeoff cabin pressurizes. Every landing pressure releases. Pressurize. Depressurize. pressurize, depressurize. This is called a fatigue cycle. And aluminum hates fatigue cycles. Around those improperly loaded rivets, cracks grew. Not all at once. Microscopic. Invisible. Flight 67 1 mm. Flight 80, 3 mm. Flight 110, 5 mm. Each cycle pulled the cracks wider. Engineers call it crack propagation. The old term is simpler. Tearing. The maintenance manual required detailed bulkhead inspections every 1,500 flight hours. But hidden cracks don't show themselves. Not to visual inspection, not unless you know exactly where to look. JA8119 passed every inspection. 7 years, 12,319 flights. 12,319 cycles of stress. August 12, 1985. Flight 123. The cracks had spread into a network. Invisible. Waiting. 12 minutes after takeoff. 24,000 feet. Cabin at full pressure. The metal had had enough. The bulkhead didn't fail gradually. It didn't leak. It exploded. 8.5 psi of compressed air, thousands of cubic feet, detonated backward at supersonic speed. The force equivalent to several kilograms of TNT. The entire vertical tail fin ripped clean off. And Boeing's quadruple redundant hydraulic system revealed its hidden flaw. All 4 hydraulic lines ran through that tail section. In the cockpit, Captain Takahama and First Officer Sasaki stare at the impossible. Every hydraulic gauge reading 0. They have no rudder, no elevators, no ailerons, just 4 engines, and 524 people behind them who don't know yet that they're already falling. Hydraulics. All 4. Gone. No flight control surfaces. The aircraft immediately enters Dutch roll. Oscillating left and right, like a pendulum in 3 dimensions. It also enters a phugoid cycle. Climbing, diving, climbing again. Each wave more violent. The pilots have one tool left. Differential thrust. By varying power to each engine, they can create turning force. It's like steering a 300-ton ship using only the propellers. While it's tumbling through the sky at 300 knots. For 32 minutes, they fight. In the cabin, the passengers know something is terribly wrong. The violent oscillations, the climbing and diving, the flight attendants' faces. Some pray, some cry, many write. Mom, I love you. Take care of yourself. Honey, I'm sorry I couldn't keep my promise. Be good to each other. Remember I love you all. In the cockpit, the pilots discover that near idle power gives them a controllable glide. Full power pitches the nose up violently. Flaps? No hydraulics. Nothing works. Air traffic control offers vectors to Haneda. Flat terrain. Emergency crews standing by, but the aircraft won't turn that way. It arcs westward, toward the mountains. 19 minutes into the emergency, they almost have it. Level flight, 15,000 feet. Then the phugoid returns. The nose pitches up. San Silsog Jonggoyam stall warning Nopian Jonggoyam 2 Cho, stall warning. Power, power. They push the throttles. The nose drops. Too far. 7,000 feet, 5,000, the mountains filling the windows. Pull up, pull up. They pull power to idle. The plane responds, but not enough. In the cabin, passengers still writing. Some clutch their letters, some hold hands. Parents shield their children. 32 minutes after the bulkhead failed, at 6:56 p.m., Flight 123 impacts Mount Takamagahara at 350 knots. 524 people on board. 520 dead. 4 survivors, but the tragedy didn't end with the crash. The survivors later testified after the initial impact, it was raining. No fire. And they heard voices. Lots of voices. 40, maybe 50 people were alive. Calling for help. Groaning in pain. The crash site was in the mountains. But not remote. About 1 hour from the nearest military base. Not hard to find. In fact, a U.S. Air Force helicopter from nearby Yokota Air Base reached the wreckage within hours. They radioed the Japanese government. "We've located the crash site. Request permission to begin rescue operations." Negative. Withdraw from the area. We will handle rescue operations. The American helicopter left. Japanese self-defense force units prepared to deploy. They waited for authorization. The authorization never came. One JSDF commander, frustrated, deployed his unit anyway. They were the first to reach the wreckage. That commander was later demoted for insubordination. Official rescue operations began at 8:30 a.m. the next morning. August 13. 14 hours after the crash. The survivors testified through the night. The voices gradually stopped, one by one. The Japanese government's explanation: they believed all passengers were dead. Heavy rain prevented accurate location. Night rescue equipment was unavailable. Risk of additional casualties. But questions remain. Why refuse American help? Why delay JSDF deployment? Who gave those orders? Some claim it was to remove evidence. Anonymous sources suggest a military training exercise gone wrong. A target drone that malfunctioned and collided with the tail. No evidence has ever been produced. The claims remain unverified. What we know for certain: the investigation traced the failure to one line of rivets. Boeing admitted the error. The technician who performed the repair 7 years earlier was never identified. After the investigation, the aviation industry changed. First, maintenance protocols were rewritten. The FAA issued emergency directives for every 747 hours in service. Inspection procedures now assumed human error had already occurred. Second, redundancy philosophy evolved. Engineers realized quadruple redundant systems meant nothing if all four shared a single failure point. Modern aircraft separate critical systems throughout the airframe. Third, hydraulic fuses. Automatic cutoffs that preserve remaining pressure even if one section is destroyed. Lose your tail, keep your controls. The changes came too late for Flight 123. But they've saved countless lives since. Among the 520 dead, 6 Koreans. Japanese pop star Kyu Sakamoto, singer of Sukiyaki. The owner of the Hanshin Tigers baseball team. Families traveling for Obon, Japan's Festival of Remembrance. In the wreckage, investigators found the letters. Dozens of them. Final words written on napkins, sick bags, anything passengers could find. Please take care of each other. I love you all. I'm sorry I can't come home. Some of those letters were published. With family permission. To honor the dead. To remember. After the accident, a Japan Airlines executive took his own life. Unable to bear the guilt. Families still demand a new investigation. Still seeking answers about those 14 hours. Here's what haunts everyone who studies this case. The failure wasn't random. It was a countdown. A timer set 7 years in advance. Flight 1 after the repair. Clock starts. Flight 1000. Halfway. Flight 10,000. Final approach. Flight 12,319. 0. 520 people. Mothers and fathers. Sons and daughters. They wrote their last words on pieces of paper while falling from the sky. Because 7 years earlier, someone used 2 plates instead of 1. Because a quality inspector didn't catch it. Because the system assumed perfection. In engineering, redundancy means everything. Until it doesn't. 4 independent hydraulic systems, defeated by 1 bulkhead. 1 bulkhead, defeated by 1 repair. 1 repair, defeated by 1 oversight. That's the margin between life and death in modern aviation. One rivet line. 32 minutes. 520 lives. This is the story of JAL Flight 123. The invisible error that became visible too late. The countdown nobody knew was running. And the letters that remind us behind every aviation statistic, there are people saying goodbye.